Imagine walking into your boss's office and giving notice because your writing has become your primary revenue stream. Or your podcast is successful enough that you can quit your day job. Or maybe having your marketing on autopilot so you can spend your time on the art career you love rather than on marketing. Are you a creative person who's great at what you do, but marketing makes you freeze? You're not alone. I help passionate, purpose-driven creatives overcome fear, find their brand voice, and build a marketing strategy that works for them. Oh yeah, I also make it easy and painless. It's never too late to grow the business you've been dreaming about. Book an introductory call with me, Rob Southgate, at southgatesmallbusiness.com today. And let's take the pain out of marketing together. One of my favorite events from last year is happening again, and you don't want to miss it. Books and Brews 2 will be held on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, at the Wyndham Hotel in Noblesville, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. You can meet over 60 horror authors, all in one place. You can buy books on site, or you can bring what you already have and you can get them signed while you meet the authors. Books and Brews 2 is brought to you by the incredible horror book Facebook group, Books of Horror. Get your tickets today by clicking the link in the show notes. You don't need to be afraid. It's just horror authors. Welcome to Ink Blots, the show where I interview authors about their lives, writing, and the books they love. Be sure to follow the Ink Blots podcast on Substack. Not only can you listen to the latest episodes, but our Substack also has interview transcriptions and links to books and other items that we talk about on the show. If you like what we're doing, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. It really helps us and our sponsors out. Oh, and leave comments. We really do read and respond to every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Ink Blots. I'm Rob Southgate. You don't know this, but this is a mirror version of something that happened just moments ago. I screwed up the recording, so audience, forgive me. Viggy, forgive me. Today I have with me horror author extraordinaire, who I've learned so much about already, and now you're going to. Viggy Parr Hampton. Viggy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and we get to have another awesome conversation.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask the same question that I started the last one with, because I want to hear this answer again, because it was great. You're going to be at Books and Brews 2, which Books and Brews 2, for those of you that don't know, it is August 1st, and it's at the Wyndham Hotel in Noblesville, Indiana. Get your tickets. Ticket links will be in the show notes, but you'll be able to meet Viggy. You'll be able to meet all these other great horror authors. If you haven't gone before, it's like the event of the year. So Viggy, this is your first time going, right?
Yes, and I am so excited.
Okay. Who is the person that you are most excited to meet? The rest of them, don't take offense.
I wish I could say everybody, but since you have to make me pick one, I'm going to say Rachel Harrison. I've read almost all of her books, and she seems awesome. Everybody says she's just a very nice person, and so I'm very excited to meet her.
Now, does she know she should have a restraining order going into this, or...
Don't tell anybody that yet.
Yeah. Last year, I was talking to one of the authors, and he was fanboying real bad about an author that I've been friends with for a while, that I knew before all this. And I was like, oh, I can introduce you. And he got all what? I'm like, you guys go to pizza, you can talk, you can whatever. He's like, no, I had to sit at the other end of the table. I was so freaked out. I'm like, he's just a guy, So I told him he's got to get a tattoo this year with his name on it. That way, then you can be a real creep.
True. That would do it.
You walk up with their name tattooed on you and you're like, I'm dying to meet you. That's when you get the restraining order.
Or become a character in a book.
Or become a character in a book and hopefully not get killed off too quickly.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Although who knows? If you killed me off, I'm in there for 3 pages and then you kill me off, I'd probably be like, yes.
As long as you were killed creatively, right? You want the cool kill.
Yeah. Oh, if it's they slipped and broke their ankle and died of sepsis eventually. You'd be like, what? Thanks, Viggy. So you were telling me about your background. I think it's fascinating. So round 2, tell people who you are, give your background. How did we get here?
Sure. So I'm Viggy Parr Hampton. I am an epidemiologist. I went to college for biology of global health and then grad school at Emory for my MPH in epidemiology. And I was a student researcher at the CDC working on the national guidelines for the clinical management of botulism, which is a mouthful, and inspired my first novel, A Cold Night for Alligators. And after that, I worked in healthcare research, consulting, and strategy before opening my own healthcare content marketing firm and writing spooky books.
Well, and you have a podcast.
Yes, I have a podcast called Horror, Humor, Hunger about all things horror. And each season is inspired by a novel or a short story of mine. And I interview experts in the field based on the themes from whatever I'm doing. So if it's religious horror, I interview an exorcist, which was a very creepy interview, but awesome. And then at the end of each season, I have a recipe inspired by the book or short story, which is where the hunger part comes in.
So are you a foodie? Is that why that hunger thing comes in?
I am, but I also just love making recipes. I love to bake. I love to cook. I love to do something different and interesting with food. And yeah, it's always been something fun for me to test something, see if it works out, because it's really like chemistry and science nerd that appeals to me.
Yeah. I was going to put a nerd alert on here. I should have done it before we started.
You should have.
Already it's come up multiple times. My daughter is a horror writer, and her girlfriend is in school for ocean studies,
cool.
Science nerd. So we have the goofy creative over here, and we have the sciencey nerd over here. And my conversation with you is an amalgam of both kind of mushed together. And I love it. I love it. So, okay, you said your first one, A Cold Night for Alligators. Tell me about that book.
Sure. So it's about a rogue epidemiologist who chases this kind of mysterious and deadly outbreak to an abandoned amusement park outside of Savannah, where things aren't as quiet as they seem. And it was inspired by my time as an epidemiologist, my love of Savannah and how creepy it is. And also, I just really love abandoned places. So I was like, let's set this in the creepiest abandoned place I can think of.
Yeah, that'll do it. Those places, like whenever you see the urban explorers, if they ever end up in one of those like abandoned, even one that should be harmless, abandoned amusement park, it's awful.
It is. It really is.
I don't know. It might be that your childhood is like decaying when you see it, and it just makes you kind of go like, oh God. So you're gonna like this. I had a job that sucked. That's neither here nor there. But for team building, they took us out paintballing. I am not that guy, but I was like, oh, I'll go do this. This sounds interesting. Here's the thing. Here's where it got really interesting. It was in an old, at this point, abandoned, we'll say, but it was being used for this paintball thing, amusement park called Santa's Village. And it had Santas and elves and Christmas trees and reindeer and snowmen, and they were covered in paint, and it looked like a horror show.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. So what did I do? I just kept shooting those things. I'm like, this is awesome, and I lost, by the way. But yeah, I get it. That's a great setting for this kind of thing. Now, you said it was related to your time there. Did you experience something where you traced like an epidemic back to, say, an alligator?
I wish. My work was about the national guidelines on the clinical management of botulism, which in short is about what do we do if something like botulism is used in a bioterror attack. So it was really fun and interesting work, and I really enjoyed it. But my book is more based on, well, obviously a fictional outbreak, and I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, don't.
I wish I'd trace something to an alligator. That'd be very cool.
That would be cool, right? Well, but you did it in your book, which makes it super cool because I definitely want to read that. Now, you also mentioned you had an exorcist on. I'm assuming this is tied back to the Rotting Room. Am I right?
Yes and no. So while the Rotting Room definitely has religious themes, that was tied to my second book, Much Too Vulgar, because it has kind of a loose connection to The Exorcist. The book takes place at Georgetown, which is where The Exorcist was filmed and also takes place. So I had an exorcist on to talk about that.
When you did your studies on the book, did you like deep dive into like Father Malachi, the one who you did?
About the book, yep.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff, right? So tell me about that exorcist for a moment.
So I actually had two on. I had an exorcist and then kind of his teacher. And they were fascinating because they didn't really adhere to just the Christian or Catholic tradition of exorcism. They kind of brought in Buddhism and Hinduism and spiritualism and kind of all different disciplines. And I will say one of them did an impression of a possessed boy, and it was the creepiest thing I've ever heard. I was doing the interview in broad daylight, and I was thinking, I need to leave.
So that is on your podcast.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to put a link in the show notes. What episode is that one? Because I want people to hear this weirdness.
So that is season 6, and I don't remember the exact episode number, but it's with Amon Berry, and then the other exorcist is called Sadhu Da.
Oh boy, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to listen to this because that sounds amazing.
Don't listen to it by yourself in the dark. Just saying.
No, you know what? I listen to a lot of weird stuff, so I can handle. Unless it's at a haunted house, then I'm melting down. Then I have a problem. Okay, so as a writer, I mean, we've got your science nerd. We've kind of traced that. When did you realize, like, hey, I'm actually a horror author?
Well, the horror part came early. We talked about that a little bit earlier, how I've always been interested in horror. And the writer part, I think people don't realize that if you're going to be a good scientist, you have to be a good writer. Otherwise, you could find the most amazing things, but if you can't communicate it, you will never make a difference. Nobody will know what you're talking about. So I think it was kind of a natural progression to combine my love of horror with my writing. And yeah, once I started writing for fun, I mean, in all honesty, I was in a job that I hated at the time. And so I would write this horror novel in emails to myself during lunch breaks just to, survive the day.
Right.
And it was like my saving grace. I found out that I absolutely loved it. And before I knew it, I had a book.
Wow. And did you know, this is a weird question. Okay. So bear with me. Did you know when you got to the end of it that like, this is a novel, or were you in your head before that where you're like, I'm going to experiment with kind of short story?
So I did experiment with short stories before that, and I wrote, half a dozen or so. And then one day I was just like, this is the novel, this is coming. And it was just a pull to start writing. I knew it was going to be a novel from the beginning, and I pantsed that one. I had no outline. I was like, this is kind of my vague idea of what's going to happen. And then I just kept going, and it was really fun.
So now are you more of a pantser or a plotter?
I kind of drift in between. So all 3 books that have been published were more or less pantsed. And then I've written a couple since that were more plotted, but they don't have that sparkle. They don't have like the magic that comes from what's going to happen. So the book I'm writing right now is completely pantsed, and I'm finding it's much more enjoyable.
So do you find, and I know that this is typically what's happening with pantsing, but I've also had other people say different things about this. When you're writing and you've got your characters, even if you're plotting it out, do you hear your characters? Do they lead you different places? Or you're like, no, when I was plotting, I controlled the narrative. When I'm pantsing, yeah, I mean, they're not really talking to me, but I am kind of following what happens. What's your take on that?
Exactly what you said. I think that's why my plotted novels I don't like as much, because I'm controlling it too much, and I'm letting my idea for the story lead it instead of the characters leading it. And I find that when I pants, the characters lead it, which means that they have much more depth. They're much more empathetic. I mean, they're so much more interesting to read. And then I have more fun as a writer because I don't necessarily know where it's going. It just starts going. And I want to be unpredictable. So if I am unpredictable even to myself, then that's got to be good.
Yeah. So when it's unpredictable like that, have you ever gotten like into your book? Here you've got this alligator that's you're leading to. Have you ever gotten to the end and the characters just completely 90 degrees what you were doing?
I mean, every character has to undergo some sort of transformation.
Right.
So yes, that does sometimes happen. And I always like when that happens. We always want to see a good character arc.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I just wondered, like, you got to the end and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it is an alligator. Oh my God. I had no idea. like a character discovered it. You went like, oh, they just told me it's the alligator. It's the alligator.
That maybe happened a little bit with the rotting room where I didn't really know. And then all of a sudden it happened and I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah. It's so funny. I find that fascinating because some authors are like, nope, I have everything lined up. I was interviewing one of the authors that's going to be at Books and Brews the other day. And he said that for him, he has it plotted out pretty well. He tries to listen to his characters. He said, they don't talk to him, but whatever. And then he said, yeah, I got to the end and it was not working. I couldn't shoehorn this thing in. And something told me to switch the gender of the one character, went all the way back to the beginning, switched the gender, and said the whole book worked as soon as I did that. I was like, that's wild. That character was fighting it, man. I am not a dude, or I'm not going to let you finish this until I'm the right gender. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So when you build dread in your books, do you feel like you're the puppet master?
No, I would say I definitely don't feel like the puppet master. I feel, this is going to sound super weird, I feel like it's a team effort between me and the characters. Because I find that if I force them to do things, then it's like you said, the book doesn't work, which is why some of the books that I'm still revising, they needed to be more pantsed and less plotted, because they just don't work. They don't sparkle. They don't jump off the page. And there's no dread, because I tried to plan everything in advance and didn't allow room for spontaneity. I think the dread really comes from some of that spontaneity and letting the characters kind of take the lead and let me just tell their story, like I'm telling it to a friend.
So are there any, I mean, obviously we're talking about horror, and we're talking about you being a horror author and your love of horror, but I'm sure you read other things. Other than scientific journals about botulism. Do you think that there is stuff that horror writers can steal from, say, romance or fantasy writers?
100%. I mean, I think horror is the most versatile genre. It's almost as versatile as just saying fiction, because you can have, a Western that's horror. You can have historical fiction that's horror, fantasy, romance. They can all be horror. So yes, I think horror can borrow from pretty much any genre and make a very compelling mix.
Yeah, and do you think that it can learn lessons from those? Because what I'm kind of thinking is they all seem to have their way of doing things. Like you can ape it and put horror in your romance novel, but the way a romance novel works is different than other novels. Do you think that horror can steal from that? I mean, obviously, if it's aping it, it can. But do you think there are lessons there that a writer could get?
100%, because I think horror can fit kind of any different style. There's so many, I don't think there's, one blueprint for how horror should go. Maybe like there is in some other genres where, this is kind of the shape of the story. Horror has a constantly changing shape. So I think it can definitely borrow, mix, combine with pretty much anything and make it good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Excellent. So, okay. Mean host time. I want to know the top 3 horror writers right now to you. Right now. So this could change in 5 minutes, but right now, first 3 that you spit out that you're like, they're the bomb.
Okay. Well, of course, as soon as you say that, I forget every writer that's ever.
Of course you do. That's why I said I'm mean.
Okay. Well, Stephen King, again, I know that's cliche, but I'd be lying if I said no. I'm going to say CJ Lead. I think she is super cool and has some interesting stuff out there. And I'm going to go ahead and say Rachel Harrison. I know I'm excited to meet her because she is one of my favorites.
Yes, and she's going to be listening to this and thinking, okay, got to watch out for her. Okay, good.
Excellent.
Yeah, bring your books, get them signed. Oh, how exciting. Okay, then here's the second part of the question. Are there any underrated or up-and-coming authors that you think deserve more attention?
That list is honestly endless. I mean, Books and Brews has a focus on indie horror, and I have read a ton of indie horror over the past couple of years, and I am constantly amazed at how awesome it is. And it's different, and it's interesting, and it's unpredictable. So, I mean, at the risk of excluding a lot of friends, I'll just say a couple. Gage Greenwood, I think he's awesome. He also runs Dread Pop, which I hope we could talk about in a little bit.
We're going to.
Yes. Nick Roberts, Caleb Jones, and Matthew Lutton, Mona Kabani. I mean, there are so many. I feel like I'm definitely forgetting people.
You're naming great names, and they're people that people really should be reading. I love it. Yeah, that's why I ask a question like that, because I do want people to hear the names. And I know, like I remember reading, I think it was The Dark Half by Stephen King, and his character says at one point, like he's talking about picking up a couple of books at a bookstore or something, and how like, I found this, it's really great. What did I do? I wrote down the names of the books. Stephen King always puts down names of books in his stuff. Do you know how many horror authors I discovered because of that? You saying like, hey, here's some, if I was the listener, what am I doing? Got to go find Gage, got to find Nick Roberts, I would be all over that. So that's really cool. Of the villains you've created in your stories, okay? Who has stayed with you the most?
Definitely the villain. Well, she's the protagonist as well. For my second book, Much Too Vulgar, her name is Keely. She is a pre-med student who will do anything she can to get into med school, even if it means eliminating her competition. And part of the reason she stayed with me is I think she's all the mean parts of me and all my mean little thoughts put into a character.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have similar backgrounds. And also, I plan on writing a sequel for her. So she's still in my head talking to me.
Still hanging around.
She's like knocking on the door. She's like, it's time. Let's go.
Oh, I love it. You're going to have the best answer to this question. So no pressure.
Okay.
But you are going to, I know you are because of what you do. What's the creepiest thing you've had to Google for your book?
Ooh.
And that you hope won't end up with you in court over someday. How's that?
Probably how to poison somebody with oleander. And just how toxic it is. What's the toxic dose? How can you give it to somebody? And then, of course, I'm super creeped out because I looked out my window and we've got some oleander in our yard right there.
So. I do. You'd have a great answer to that one. So do you think horror, I've got all these questions. I'm just like rapid firing today. I think it was too much coffee. Do you think horror is good for us? I mean, you and I think it's good for us, but I mean, technically, socially, do you think that it's good for society to have so much horror kind of entering the consciousness?
Absolutely. I mean, I think some people like roller coasters. I don't. I get that same kind of like cathartic release and the adrenaline rush from reading horror. I think it's one of those very necessary vehicles we can use to explore ourselves, explore what we would do in some of these horrible situations, but it's safe. It's contained. We can make critiques about society. We can explore alternate realities. I think it is, like I said, one of the most versatile and adaptable genres and one of the most important.
Concise, good answer. Thank you. Okay. So this is what I want to know. I've got all it's. I feel like I'm doing Deal a Meal. You know, Richard Simmons is throwing all these cards out, and I've got these ideas going. I want to know what is. I don't necessarily want to know your process. I want to know more. Do you have any rituals around writing?
It depends on the book. For The Rotting Room, it's a historical religious horror novel. So my process was come up to my office at 4:35 in the morning. I'm an early riser. Dim the lights, light a candle, and then put on my Gregorian monk chanting YouTube video.
Nice.
Got me in the mood immediately. That book was easy to write.
So are there other like rituals that you have? Like that one was specific to that book, but is there anything like, yep, I have to have my number 4 pencil or number 2 pencil. What is the number 4? My number 2 pencil. I have to have, because like, I remember speaking of Stephen King, him talking about it one time, like he had a very specific, like I have this typewriter I have to use, or I have this pencil that I have to use, and God help us if it ever breaks. You know what I mean? Is there anything like that for you?
Not really. And I think part of that's because I started writing books, you know, in the office in emails to myself. So if I'm, you know, out on a walk and it's time to start, I will type in notes on my phone. I will write anywhere and everywhere because I'm also the mom to 2 very small children. So when I get the time, I take the time, and it doesn't matter where I am. I don't have time for rituals. Right.
Okay. You mentioned Dread Pop. What do you do with Dread Pop? And tell me all about Dread Pop.
Dread Pop is an awesome new home for horror with a focus on indie authors. There are 2 components. We have the magazine, where if you sign up for our Patreon, you will get a new short story every week from a master of horror. And then we have a YouTube channel, and I run a segment on there called Tag Team Tales of Terror, which I love an alliteration. And it's where I challenge fellow horror authors to create a story with me on the spot in 30-second increments based on a prompt I pull out of a hat.
Oh my God, I love that. I don't know how I haven't seen this yet, but this is going to eat up my life, I have a feeling. Yes. I love that. And if you need any recommendations, I know horror authors that are not part of Books and Brews, that aren't going to be at Books and Brews, but I have all sorts of horror authors because I'm a VP of marketing for a book publisher, and we have a lot of horror. So I can send you some fun people that love doing this kind of thing.
Excellent. Send me the people.
I will. I totally will. So yeah, Dread Pop is really interesting. I can't remember who I talked to. Who was it that started it?
Gage Greenwood.
Oh, it was Gage. That's who I was talking to. And he mentioned it, but he didn't mention like, oh, I started it or whatever. And we ended up talking about it some at Books and Brews, put it on my radar. And now I'm like, oh man, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's been working on this for a while, and then we jump started about the end of January. So we're going on almost 6 months, and it is so fun. It's a great community where everybody has different segments on the YouTube channel. Then we've got these great short stories. I mean, I'm so happy and proud to be a part of it.
So I think this didn't end up on this part. It ended up on our disappearing podcast. What got you into horror? What started it?
So again, this is going to be weird. Tales from the Crypt Keeper. I loved seeing that creepy little puppet. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and I would beg my parents to let me stay up and see it. And if I fell asleep beforehand, I would cry. I was just so upset about it. And that kind of instilled in me a love for horror, a love for the macabre, also some camp in there for sure. And anytime, whenever I see the Crypt Keeper now, I'm instantly transported back to my childhood.
Did you have a favorite episode?
You know, I can't, when I bring it into my brain, all I see is the Crypt Keeper. So if I looked it up, I probably could tell you, but I just see the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. I asked that question. I'm like, well, that was BS to ask that question. Cause I loved that show, and I can only think of one thing. When the guy, they were playing poker in an episode, and they pulled the guy's hand out and they chopped off all his fingers with a butcher knife. And I was like, oh my God, it was like, that's stuck in my head. I don't remember anything more about it. So I'm like, well, that doesn't count. But yeah, I loved that show too. Very good. Okay. We have your podcast. We have Dread Pop. We have your books. You're going to be at Books and Brews 2, August 1st at the Wyndham. I already lost it, right? It's the
Wyndham Noblesville.
Wyndham in Noblesville, Indiana, which is just outside of Milwaukee. So here's a question for you. I've only got a couple more. Have you been to Indiana before?
Maybe driving through it, but other than that, no.
Okay. Is there anything you're excited to do in the Midwest, or are you just like, it's a flyover except for Books and Brews?
Well, I'm from Michigan originally, so I feel like I've been in the Midwest a lot. Okay. So I'm just excited to meet people, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes people are like, there's a restaurant, I got to try it. Like, okay. There is a really great children's museum there.
I have heard good things about that, and one day if I ever decide to bring my children with me, we're going there.
So you can scope it out, just like drive by and go like, oh, look, dinosaurs outside, got to bring the kids. That'll do it. You've done your job as a mom, and then you can get back to it. And is there anything, since we talked about recipes in that, is there anything that, like, restaurants or types of food that you're like, I'm dying to get back there and have this?
Well, I'm a gluten-free vegetarian. My dad calls me
celiac. We're gluten-free too. Yeah.
Well, my dad calls me a PETA vegetarian, which stands for pain in the ass. So anywhere that's, got that kind of food, I'm like, thank you so much for having something I can eat.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I will ask my wife, because she is very connected to the gluten-free foodie community, and we go to Indiana quite a bit. So she will, Indianapolis actually, for cons and that. I bet she'll have a couple suggestions for you. So
I will take any recommendation she can give me.
I will ask her. Yeah, we're all about it. My wife and daughter are both celiac. I'm gluten-free. We're not vegetarian, but we have vegetarian friends. So we just had my daughter's graduation. You're missing out. We have a place that has real Chinese food that is gluten-free.
Wow.
We also have a place that has a burrito that is gluten-free, and it's a real burrito. You're talking to a foodie. This stuff matters.
Yes.
But we had vegetarian at our party. We had the Chinese food, and we had vegetarian mixed in, and the vegetarian, and everybody was just like, I can't believe it's gluten-free. It's the greatest food. So when you come to Chicago, we'll hook you up.
Excellent.
Okay. Viggy, where can people interact with you? What's the best place?
I am most active on Instagram at Viggy Parr Hampton. I also have a TikTok, which is also at Viggy Parr Hampton. And then I have my Facebook page, author Viggy Parr Hampton.
I see some consistency there. You might have been in marketing at one point. I will make sure all that goes in the show notes. For those of you that didn't get it written down quickly enough, you could just click and go and follow Viggy. Follow her, buy her books, go to Books and Brews, get everything signed. Talk about gluten-free food with her. She'll love you forever. And try to help her keep a distance from this author that's going to have a restraining order. But, you're a buffer for her. That'll be good. Viggy, thank you so much. I am so excited for you to go to this. I am so excited. You're going to love it.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Viggy.
Thanks.